Nicola Bulley. On the morning of January 27, 2023, she followed the same routine she had followed countless times before. She drove her two daughters to school. She took the family's Springer Spaniel, Willow, for a walk along the River Wyre. She joined a work conference call on her mobile phone while walking. It seemed like an ordinary Friday morning. Nothing appeared unusual. Nothing suggested that within a few minutes, she would disappear without a trace. Her disappearance would soon become one of the most talked about missing person cases in modern British history. For weeks, millions of people across the United Kingdom followed every update. Television news covered the search every day. Newspapers published front-page headlines. Social media exploded with theories, speculation, and countless unanswered questions. How could someone vanish in broad daylight? What really happened beside the River Wyre? And why did this case capture the attention of an entire nation? To understand the investigation, we first need to understand the person at the center of it. Nicola Bulley was 45 years old. She worked as a mortgage advisor and lived with her partner, Paul Ansell, and their two daughters in Lancashire. Friends described her as caring, reliable, and deeply devoted to her family. She enjoyed spending time outdoors and rarely missed her morning walks with Willow. The riverside path near the village of St. Michael's on Wyre had become part of her everyday routine. It was peaceful, quiet, familiar. Local residents often saw the same faces walking there each morning. There was nothing unusual about Nicola being there that Friday. After dropping her daughters at school shortly before 9 o'clock, she drove to the riverside. CCTV cameras later confirmed her arrival. She parked her vehicle and began walking Willow along the path. Shortly after 9 o'clock, she joined a Microsoft Teams work meeting using her mobile phone. According to investigators, her camera was turned off and her microphone remained muted throughout the call. To everyone attending the meeting, it appeared she was simply listening while continuing her walk. No one on the call noticed anything unusual. No sounds of distress. No interruption. No indication that anything was wrong. Then, sometime after 9:20 in the morning, the ordinary became extraordinary. Another dog walker came across Willow. The dog was running freely near a bench beside the river. Nearby, Nicola's mobile phone rested on the bench. The work call was still connected. The screen had not been locked. The phone had not been switched off. But Nicola herself was nowhere to be seen. The discovery immediately raised concern. It was completely out of character. Friends and family later said Nicola would never have willingly left Willow behind. Nor would she have simply abandoned her phone during a work meeting. The woman who found the dog quickly alerted others. Emergency services were contacted. Within a short time, Lancashire police arrived at the scene. Officers secured the area and began treating it as a high-priority missing person investigation. Time was critical. The first few hours after someone disappears are often the most important. Police searched the footpaths surrounding the river. Officers knocked on nearby doors. Witnesses were interviewed. Anyone who had been walking in the area that morning was asked to come forward. Search teams carefully examined the riverbank while specialist officers reviewed CCTV footage from surrounding roads and buildings. As the hours passed, the search became larger. Marine units arrived to examine the River Wyre. Divers entered the cold water. Rescue teams searched along both banks. Drones surveyed nearby fields from above. Police dogs searched woodland and open countryside. Every possible route Nicola might have taken was examined. Despite these efforts, there was no sign of her. Her car remained in the car park. Her belongings had been left behind. Her dog had been found safe. But Nicola had seemingly vanished. News of the disappearance spread quickly through the local community. Friends organized volunteer search groups. Residents searched nearby paths, fields, and woodland. Businesses displayed missing person posters in their windows. People checked home security cameras, hoping they had captured something investigators had missed. As local news became national news, media organizations from across Britain arrived in the village. Television crews reported live from the riverside. Helicopters flew overhead. Reporters stood near the police cordons, delivering updates to millions of viewers. Questions spread almost as quickly as the headlines. Had Nicola accidentally fallen into the river? Had she left the area voluntarily? Was there evidence of a crime? At that stage, detectives stressed that they were keeping an open mind. There was no confirmed evidence pointing to any single explanation. Investigators urged the public not to speculate while the search continued. Behind the scenes, officers worked around the clock. Every known movement Nicola made that morning was reconstructed minute by minute. Specialists examined mobile phone data. Detectives reviewed CCTV footage from surrounding roads. Witnesses were interviewed repeatedly. Every lead, no matter how small, was investigated. The hope was that one overlooked detail might reveal what had happened after Nicola's phone was left beside the bench. But with each passing day, that answer remained frustratingly out of reach. What had started as a local missing person investigation was rapidly becoming one of the biggest news stories in the United Kingdom. And as public attention grew, so did something else. Speculation, rumors, and a wave of online theories that would soon become almost as significant as the investigation itself. As the days passed, the search for Nicola Bulley became one of the largest missing person investigations in recent British history. Lancashire police increased the number of officers working on the case. Specialist search teams continued examining the River Wyre. Divers searched underwater. Sonar equipment scanned the riverbed. Drones flew over nearby fields and woodland. Search dogs followed every possible scent. Every path, every hedge, and every stretch of riverbank was examined again and again. Police also began building a detailed timeline of Nicola's final known movements. CCTV footage confirmed that she had dropped her daughters at school before driving to the riverside. Witnesses reported seeing her walking Willow as she normally did. Her mobile phone records showed that she had joined a Microsoft Teams meeting shortly after 9 o'clock. The call remained connected even after she disappeared. Investigators believed that by approximately 9:20 a.m., Nicola could no longer be accounted for. That 20-minute window became the focus of the investigation. Detectives interviewed everyone who had been near the riverside that morning. Dog walkers, local residents, parents returning from the school run, people working nearby. Each statement was carefully compared against the timeline. Every vehicle captured on nearby CCTV cameras was identified where possible. Police hoped that even the smallest observation might explain what had happened. Despite the extensive search, there was still no confirmed evidence that Nicola had left the area. No CCTV footage showed her walking away. No witness reported seeing her after the time her phone was found. The absence of evidence made the investigation even more challenging. As national media coverage intensified, the story spread far beyond Lancashire. Television channels broadcast live updates throughout the day. Newspapers published fresh headlines every morning. Millions of people followed the case online. Social media platforms became filled with discussions about the disappearance. Some users tried to help by sharing official police appeals. Others began creating their own theories. Within days, speculation started spreading faster than verified information. Videos claiming to solve the mystery appeared online. People analyzed maps, CCTV images, and photographs. Some individuals traveled to St. Michael's on Wyre and filmed themselves searching the area. Others questioned witnesses or attempted to conduct their own investigations. Police repeatedly urged the public not to interfere with the official search. Investigators warned that false information could distract officers and create additional distress for Nicola's family. Even so, the online speculation continued to grow. The quiet village suddenly found itself surrounded by journalists, content creators, and curious visitors. Residents later described feeling overwhelmed. Roads became busier. Camera crews stood near homes. People arrived hoping to discover clues for themselves. What had once been a peaceful riverside community had become the center of intense national attention. As pressure increased, Lancashire police held regular press conferences. Officers explained the progress of the search and appealed for patience. Based on the evidence available at that stage, investigators stated that their primary working hypothesis was that Nicola had entered the River Wyre. They also emphasized that this remained a hypothesis based on the evidence gathered so far, not a confirmed fact. Police continued examining all available information while keeping an open mind. The announcement sparked widespread debate. Some members of the public accepted the police assessment. Others questioned whether enough evidence existed to support that conclusion. The discussion quickly spread across television programs, newspapers, and online forums. As the case remained unresolved, pressure on investigators continued to mount. Then another controversy emerged. During a press briefing, Lancashire police disclosed personal information about Nicola's health, including that she had experienced vulnerabilities related to alcohol and menopause. The decision immediately drew criticism. Many people questioned whether releasing such private information was necessary during an active investigation. Privacy experts, politicians, and members of the public argued that the disclosure risked shifting attention away from the search itself. Nicola's family later expressed concerns about the release of these personal details. The debate became a major national story alongside the disappearance. Despite the criticism, officers stated that the information had been shared because they believed it could assist the investigation and help explain their search strategy. The discussion highlighted the difficult balance police sometimes face between protecting personal privacy and releasing information they believe may be relevant to finding a missing person. Meanwhile, search teams continued working every day. Divers returned to the river. Boats searched downstream. Specialist advisors reviewed the search methods being used. Independent underwater search expert Peter Faulding was also involved for a period, bringing additional equipment to examine sections of the river. Although different experts expressed varying views about the search, no confirmed evidence emerged to explain Nicola's disappearance. Weeks passed. The uncertainty became increasingly painful for her family. Every morning brought fresh headlines. Every evening ended without answers. The entire country seemed to be asking the same question. What really happened to Nicola Bulley? Eventually, after more than 3 weeks of searching, the investigation reached a development that would once again place the River Wyre at the center of the case. On the morning of February 19, 2023, more than 3 weeks after Nicola Bulley disappeared, the investigation reached its most significant development. Members of the public contacted police after spotting something in the River Wyre, downstream from the area where Nicola had last been seen. Officers responded immediately. The area was secured while specialist teams carried out a recovery operation. A body was recovered from the river. For Nicola's family, the news was devastating. Shortly afterward, Lancashire police confirmed that the body had been formally identified as Nicola Bulley. The search that had dominated national headlines for weeks had come to an end. But many questions remained. How had she entered the river? Why had she not been found sooner despite extensive searches? And would investigators now be able to explain exactly what had happened on the morning of January 27th? A post-mortem examination was carried out by specialist pathologists. The examination found no evidence of assault or injuries indicating the involvement of another person. Police stated that there was no evidence to suggest that a third party had been involved in Nicola's disappearance. Detectives continued gathering evidence, reviewing witness statements, CCTV footage, mobile phone records, and forensic findings to ensure every aspect of the investigation had been thoroughly examined. Although many rumors continued to circulate online, investigators repeatedly emphasized that conclusions had to be based on evidence rather than speculation. For Nicola's family, this was an incredibly difficult period. They had spent weeks hoping for a different outcome. Now they faced the reality of preparing for a funeral while also dealing with intense public attention. In a statement released through the police, the family thanked everyone who had supported the search. They also asked for privacy as they tried to come to terms with their loss. Across the United Kingdom, tributes began appearing. Flowers were placed near the riverside where Nicola had last been seen. Messages of sympathy arrived from people who had followed the case from the beginning. Many had never met Nicola, yet they felt deeply affected by what had happened. The disappearance had become more than a local news story. It had become a national tragedy. Even after Nicola was found, the public conversation did not end. Many people continued asking why such an extensive search had taken more than 3 weeks. Search specialists explained that rivers are highly complex environments. Water levels, currents, vegetation weather conditions, underwater visibility, and changing tides can all affect search operations. Locating a missing person in a river can be extremely challenging, even when specialist teams are involved. Investigators also faced continued questions about the large amount of speculation that had spread online during the search. Throughout the investigation, numerous theories had been shared across social media. Some suggested criminal involvement. Others accused innocent people without evidence. Several individuals traveled to the village attempting to conduct their own investigations, recording videos and questioning local residents. Lancashire police later stated that this activity had complicated the investigation and caused additional distress to the local community. Residents described feeling overwhelmed by the constant presence of cameras and visitors. What had once been a peaceful village became crowded with journalists, social media personalities, and people hoping to uncover their own version of the story. Many locals later said they simply wanted their community to return to normal. As detectives completed their investigation, they prepared all of the evidence for the legal process that follows sudden and unexplained deaths in England and Wales. The next stage would not be a criminal trial. Instead, it would be an inquest, an independent judicial process designed to establish who the deceased was, and when, where, and how the death occurred. For Nicola's loved ones, it represented another opportunity to receive answers based on the available evidence. For the wider public, it would become the moment when months of questions, speculation, and uncertainty would finally be examined in detail under oath. The conclusions reached during that process would shape the official understanding of one of the most closely followed missing person cases in recent British history. Months after Nicola Bulley was found, preparations began for the inquest. Unlike a criminal trial, an inquest does not decide guilt or innocence. Its purpose is to establish who the deceased was, and when, where, and how they died based on the available evidence. The proceedings brought together witness testimony, expert opinions, police evidence, and medical findings. For Nicola's family, it was another painful step. They hoped it would provide clear answers after months of uncertainty. The inquest heard detailed evidence about Nicola's final known movements on the morning of January 27, 2023. Investigators presented CCTV footage showing her arriving near the River Wyre after dropping her daughters at school. Witnesses described seeing her walking Willow as they had on many previous mornings. Evidence also confirmed that she had joined a Microsoft Teams work meeting while walking. Her phone remained connected to the meeting even after she disappeared. The bench where her mobile phone was found became an important point in the investigation. Experts examined the surrounding area and explained the search methods that had been used during the weeks following her disappearance. Search officers described the challenges of working in the River Wyre. Water currents, underwater vegetation, changing river conditions, and limited visibility all affected search operations. The inquest also examined why Nicola had not been located during the earliest searches. Specialists explained that river searches are among the most difficult types of missing person investigations. Even experienced underwater teams cannot guarantee immediate results. Weather conditions and the natural movement of water can significantly affect recovery efforts. Medical experts presented the findings of the post-mortem examination. The evidence showed no injuries suggesting that another person had assaulted Nicola. No evidence was found to support the involvement of a third party. After reviewing all the evidence, the coroner concluded that Nicola Bulley died as a result of accidental drowning. The conclusion reflected the evidence presented during the investigation and the inquest. Although the official findings answered the legal question of how Nicola died, they did not end every public discussion surrounding the case. Many people continued debating the police investigation. One of the most controversial issues remained the decision by Lancashire police to publicly disclose personal information about Nicola's health during the search. The force had stated that the information was released because investigators believed it was relevant to their search strategy. However, the decision attracted widespread criticism. Privacy advocates questioned whether such sensitive medical information should have been made public. Members of Parliament, journalists, and policing experts also debated whether the disclosure had been appropriate. Nicola's family later said the release of those personal details had added to their distress during an already unimaginable time. The case also sparked wider discussions about the role of social media during active investigations. Throughout the search, countless rumors had spread online. Some innocent people found themselves accused without evidence. Others became the subject of false claims shared millions of times. Police warned that misinformation not only distracted investigators but also caused unnecessary suffering for families and local communities. Following the investigation, many experts called for greater responsibility when discussing ongoing criminal or missing person cases online. The story demonstrated how quickly speculation can spread and how difficult it can be to correct once it reaches a large audience. For the residents of St. Michael's on Wyre, the months surrounding Nicola's disappearance were unlike anything they had ever experienced. Their quiet village became known across the world. Television crews stood outside homes. Roads filled with visitors. Local people found themselves repeatedly approached by journalists and content creators. Many residents later said they hoped the village would once again be remembered for its peaceful countryside rather than the tragedy that had brought it into the national spotlight. As the legal process concluded, attention gradually shifted away from the investigation itself. Instead, many people began reflecting on the lasting lessons of the case. Those lessons extended far beyond one missing person investigation. They raised important questions about policing, privacy, responsible reporting, public speculation, and the human impact experienced by families living through unimaginable loss. Those conversations continue today, making Nicola Bulley's case one of the most significant missing person investigations in recent British history, not only because of what happened, but because of what the country learned from it. As media attention gradually faded, Nicola Bulley's family faced the difficult task of rebuilding their lives away from the headlines. For weeks, their private grief had unfolded in front of the entire country. Every development had been reported. Every police statement had been analyzed. Every rumor had spread across social media within minutes. For Nicola's loved ones, however, this was never simply a news story. It was the loss of a daughter, a partner, a mother, a sister, a friend. In statements released after the inquest, the family expressed gratitude to the emergency services, volunteers, and members of the public who had supported the search. At the same time, they spoke about the immense emotional toll caused by constant speculation and intrusive media attention. They asked people to remember Nicola for the person she was, rather than for the circumstances of her disappearance. That message resonated with many across the United Kingdom. The case also became an important moment of reflection for police forces. Missing person investigations are among the most challenging cases detectives face. Unlike many criminal investigations, officers often begin with very little information. There may be no witnesses, no obvious evidence of a crime, no confirmed direction of travel. Every possibility must be considered while time continues to pass. The search for Nicola demonstrated both the scale of resources that can be deployed and the limitations investigators sometimes face, even when specialist teams are involved. Lancashire police later reviewed aspects of the investigation, including how information had been communicated to the public. The Independent Office for Police Conduct also examined complaints relating to the disclosure of Nicola's personal information. These reviews formed part of a wider discussion about balancing investigative needs with an individual's right to privacy. Another lasting lesson involved the influence of social media. Never before had a missing person investigation in Britain generated such a volume of online discussion in such a short period. Some people genuinely wanted to help by sharing official appeals. Others unknowingly spread false information. A smaller number treated the investigation as entertainment, producing videos and unsupported theories that reached millions of viewers. Experts warned that misinformation during active investigations can have serious consequences. False accusations can damage innocent lives. Rumors can divert police resources. Families already experiencing unimaginable grief may also be forced to confront speculation that has no basis in evidence. The Nicola Bulley case is now frequently cited in discussions about responsible reporting, digital ethics, and the role of online platforms during major investigations. Journalism organizations, policing experts, and legal commentators have all pointed to the case as an example of why verified facts should always take precedence over viral speculation. It also reminded the public of an important reality. Not every unanswered question has a dramatic explanation. Sometimes investigations end with conclusions supported by evidence, even if those conclusions do not satisfy every theory that circulates online. For investigators, the responsibility is not to confirm popular beliefs. It is to establish the facts. Today, Nicola Bulley's case is remembered for far more than the search itself. It prompted national conversations about missing person investigations. It influenced debates about police communication. It highlighted the responsibilities of traditional media and social media users alike. Most importantly, it reminded millions of people that behind every headline is a real family living through real loss. When major cases dominate the news, it is easy for public attention to focus on mystery and speculation. But for those closest to the person at the center of the story, there is no mystery to follow, only grief to endure. Perhaps that is the most important lesson this case leaves behind. Every investigation is ultimately about people. Not headlines. Not internet theories. Not viral videos. It is about finding answers through evidence, treating families with dignity, and remembering that compassion should never disappear in the search for information. Nicola Bulley's disappearance became one of the most closely followed missing person investigations in modern British history. The official investigation and inquest sought to establish the facts using evidence rather than speculation. Those findings now form the historical record of the case. Yet beyond the legal conclusions, Nicola is remembered by those who knew her as a devoted mother, a loving partner, and someone whose life meant far more than the tragedy that brought her name into the national spotlight. And perhaps that is how every victim should be remembered. Not only for the day they disappeared, but for the life they lived before the world knew their name.